What's up everyone, it's Anna, also known as That Star Wars Girl, and today I am going to be doing a drawing tutorial on how to draw Thanos from the MCU, or the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, I just want to let everyone know, every single artist has their own style. I am still trying to find mine, if that makes any sense, and I feel like I personally have a very different style depending on what mediums I use. So in this video I am going to be drawing with a Prismacolor colored pencil, and then for the inking process I go in with some high-tech C pens, as well as from just some generic calligraphy pens that I get from Daiso. Daiso is I don't know if they're located everywhere in the US, but they're a Japanese dollar store that we have here in California. And I like these pens because when I go in with the colors later on, they do not bleed. And so once they're dried, they're dried. They don't get messed up. As long as you don't get water on them, they're good. And then in this video I am going to be doing a different technique than I usually do. So yeah, let's get right into this tutorial. And just so everyone is aware, this is just the part 1, so there is going to be a part 2 which will come out tomorrow, and in this first part I will just be sketching it out and then inking it over. So without further ado, let's start drawing. Alright, so right off the bat I go in and I start making shapes. So now this is going to be one of the biggest thing when you're starting out your sketch, is you want to get the proportions right. And so you don't go in like with all fine little details. You really have to go in and find those shapes and make sure they're all in the correct places. And then once you have those shapes, you can go in and start adding details. As you can see, I'm not too concerned about getting that perfect line. I go over spots over and over again to make sure that, you know, I have the correct line. And you know, when I go in like with where the stones are, you know, those are circles or, you know, ovals. So obviously I can't draw a perfect circle right off the bat, so you go over and over it again, and that's how you create a perfect circle without using tools. Now, when you're drawing a character like Thanos, and it's not the comic version, it's the MCU movie version, he has a very specific look to his face because it's based off of the actor. And so getting the likeness is, you know, keen in this part. And you know, usually a lot of artists, that is very restricting when you're doing a portrait of someone, because you don't get to be open to creativity. You have to capture this person's features. And so going in, you'll see I changed things over and over. I continuously go over certain places because I'm trying to capture, you know, I think his name is Josh Brolin, I'm pretty sure. I have to capture his face. Going in with a costume, it can be a little bit more forgiving because, you know, costumes usually change in every MCU movie. I don't know if that has to do with the actual story plot, or, you know, they just want to sell new costumes for every movie. I'm leaning more towards the latter. But going in and getting his details right is something that I wanted, you know, to focus on, because I want this to look as, you know, realistic as possible, but also have, you know, that stylized look to it. And, you know, using my reference of I actually used the image you know, right when you type in Thanos onto Google, it's the image of him. I believe it's from the Sideshow sculpture that was made, and I love Sideshow. Their work is absolutely fantastic. I ordered the Jareth Goblin King, you know, David Bowie statue that was supposed to come in October. I just got an email saying it's not coming in until May, which sucks, but I'm super excited to get that, and every single thing that I've seen from them just looks absolutely fantastic. The level of detail in their renderings is beautiful. So looking at that, it was the most detailed image I could find of Thanos. And, you know, even if it's not spot on to the movie, which I'm assuming it is, I'm not too familiar with all of Thanos' costumes, just because when I look at him, I think I focus more in on what he's saying, the characters that he's interacting with, or, you know, his gauntlet. And Thanos, in a way, is He's a bit of a mysterious type of character, but I find, it's more interesting the things that he's saying than, staring at his costume. Now, as you can see, I'm going in with the inks now. This is not a thing that I usually do. I don't do a lot of cross-hatching. I am using high-tech C pins because they're Japanese calligraphy pins, but the thing about the tips is they will not bend no matter how much pressure you put on them as compared to, like micron pencils. So I never would recommend micron pencils. I probably am not pronouncing that right. Always use high-tech C pins. So as you can see, I'm using cross-hatching. This is something that was a technique I watched a lot of my friends do because I've been spending a lot of time streaming with comic book artists and watching the way that they draw. A lot of them do digital art, but it's interesting to see the amount of lines that they use, like even people like Ethan, and just looking at his artwork from Cyberfrog, it's the amount of lines is intense. So I wanted to try it. I wanted to give it a go. I usually am the kind of person that just does an outline, and then instead of doing cross-hatching, I let my values and my color create the shapes. But I wanted to make a drawing that if, there was just a line, you could see the complete, forms and everything. So this was a little bit of an experiment on my part. I haven't done something like this since I was in college years and years ago, and I'm actually happy with the way that it turned out. Now, the pencil that I was going in, the thicker pencil, not the high-tech C pencil, that was pen. That was a pen that I got from Daiso. It's a calligraphy pen. Daiso is a Japanese dollar store, and I like that it gives you those thick lines as even the thin ones that you see now. And one of the best things about it is that when you add ink or you're adding the values and the colors, no matter how much ink you put on it that's going to be wet, it doesn't bleed. And that's really, really important when you're going to add traditional color to your drawing, because if you have a pen, you do this intense inking, and then you put color on it and it's it messes up your ink, your image is ruined, your drawing is ruined, and you have to start over again, and all those hours of work are just wasted. So as you can see, I'm putting in the thicker lines to show the weight of the things that he's wearing. And that's another thing, is you need to really pay attention to line values. The thicker the line, the more weight that it has. And now I'm going in and adding details to his neck and a little bit to his gauntlet. I was kind of hesitant to do his face just because I felt like I was very line heavy, and it's not something I'm very comfortable with doing. And so going into this part, as you can see, just me adding the lines right there, I'm more comfortable doing that. And with the high-tech C that I'm going in with right now, that's not something I would usually add. I would usually just leave the plain lines with the Daiso pen and then go in with the values and color with the the Copic markers to add all of this detail in. But gotta try. I'm trying new things. I'm experimenting. Gotta take risks sometimes in life. So that's exactly what I'm doing. Even this little part with his forehead, that's not something I would ever do. I would just leave that empty of any inks. But I wanted to try it. I was looking at the shadows on his face from the sculpture and my reference image, and that's how I was able to see the shadows. That's how I was able to create the form just with the inks. And cross-hatching is a technique that I think you need to practice a lot with before you kind of find your flow and get comfortable with it. I look at references from my friends that are comic book artists. You can go online to look at different cross-hatching techniques, and if you want it to look accurate, just follow the reference, especially when it's something like this. When it's an image or something that you're creating from scratch, it doesn't exist in real life, it's easier sometimes to get away with the lack of cross-hatching, whereas something that is an image that everyone recognizes, everyone knows who Thanos is. So it's a lot trickier because you have that pressure of trying to make him recognizable. Now, I'm going in with a lot more heavier inks just because, again, I've been watching the way that all my comic book artist friends have been doing it, and they sometimes have a lot of heavy inks, and they don't really do color, so that's why they go more ink heavy. So again, it's just an experiment I'm trying out. If I were to go back, would I do things differently? Maybe, but because this was a learning experience just for me, I'm glad that I did it this way because I did learn. I learned from this. And, you know, right now with you see me adding stuff to the gauntlet, you know, this is metal. And one of the things that you need to really focus on when you're going to do a heavy, you know, costume-based drawing is trying to get the different materials accurate. And so obviously metal has a very different sheen to it than, you know, fabric, you know, the fabric on Thanos, even though it does have kind of a metallic tint to certain parts of his costume. Obviously the gauntlet is kind of the focus of his costume, and you know, the metal adornments that he does have on his costume, you know, I don't want that to be the focus. So that's why I made the gauntlet more contrast heavy, because your eye is going to go to the highest level of contrast where the white meets the black. That is what draws people's eyes into images. That's where you're going to go to, because that's just part of human nature. You're drawn to the highest contrast. So as you can see, that is my sketch of Thanos. That is my inking. Now there is a lot of white spaces. Now, like I said, I'm more comfortable going in with values and adding in the color. So you are going to see me do that in part 2 of this drawing Thanos tutorial. So I hope you enjoyed this, and you know, I hope that my little ramblings walking you through this helped you in your own inking process. Alright everyone, well thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed me drawing Thanos and inking him. I realized I should have shown these in the beginning of the video, but I blanked. This is the Prismacolor pencil I use. You can get it at most any art stores. Not Michael's. The art store that I usually go to get these pencils is either Blick or Art Supply Warehouse. This is the high-tech C pencil. I usually use 0.25, 0.3, and 0.5 depending on how thick I want the line to be. This you have to get at a calligraphy store. If you can find like a Japanese calligraphy store, they usually have those there. And then this is the calligraphy pen I get from Daiso. They come in different sizes, and depending on the size of the tip, it'll be a different color. So usually the darker the color, the bigger the tip. And yeah, so without further ado, thank you so much, everyone. I hope that you found this enjoyable. If you did, please let me know what you liked about this. If you have any other questions or suggestions on how you would, or what you would like to see more of and me to focus more in, please let me know in the comments below, so that way I can improve on making these art tutorial videos. And yeah, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, that's okay too. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Make sure you click that little bell, that way you get notifications when I do other videos and live streams. And until next time, everyone, tomorrow with the second part of the video, may the force be with you, because we are really, really, really going to need it. Bye, everyone. What's up, everyone? It's Anna, also known as That Star Wars Girl, and I have an Etsy store, so if you've ever wanted to own a print of my artwork, this is the place to go. As you can see, I have a lot of recognizable characters, from horror films to heroes to Star Wars characters. Some of the notable characters I have on here are Darth Vader, which I did a couple live streams painting, so you can own a print of this painting. I also have Luke Skywalker, the binary sunset version, one of my favorite scenes in the original New Hope movie. I have Darth Maul, which Ray Parks himself actually complimented me on Instagram. And then last but certainly not least, Ahsoka Tano. So if you want to own any of these prints, go right on over to my Etsy store. Again, that's The Art of Anna, That Star Wars Girl, or TSWG for short. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. What's up, everyone? I have a P.O. box, so if you want to send me some mail, go ahead and send it to Anna, That Star Wars Girl, or TSWG for short, at P.O. Box number 28171, Santa Ana, California, 927998171. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.